time. My name is Jerry Fan. I'm the chairman of the Utah Public Service Commission. Seated to my left is Commissioner John Harvey, who's a commissioner on the Public Service Commission. There are three public service commissioners in the state of Utah. The third is Commissioner Dave Clark, and he called me this morning and has been diagnosed with COVID, so we invited him to stay home. So we have some folks here from the state. Standing at the computer here is Melissa Pascal. She's keeps the commission running, and she, so you know, is going to, this is going to be recorded with a backup recording, and it's also streaming if anybody wanted to appear on video, that could happen. And just so you know, we'll ask you if you're going to make a comment, come up, state your name, and spell your name, because we're going to have this transcribed by a court reporter, and it'll be part of the public record. So we're here today. It's docket 24-035-04. It's got a big long name. It's entitled "In the Matter of the Application of Rocky Mountain Power for authority to increase its retail electric utility service rates in Utah and for approval of its proposed electric service schedules and electric service regulations." So we are conducting the hearings associated with this. We're going to refer to it from now on as the general rate case instead of that big long title. We're conducting hearings in this general rate case in three phases. We have had hearings in December for about a week and a half on phase one, which is dealing with revenue requirements, rate of return. On earlier in January, we had hearings on phase two. There's been a settlement stipulation on a lot of those, on those issues among the parties. That's dealing with the cost of service and rate design. And then in March, we'll have a third phase of this hearing dealing with insurance issues and wildfire issues and wildfire mitigation plans. So this case has engendered an enormous amount of public interest. We want to give everyone who's here or who will arrive, we're actually going to keep this hearing open until 6 o'clock, because that's what our notice said, if others arrive later. I've probably reviewed, I can't count them exactly, but several hundred email comments from the public. They're all part of the public record. You could go on the Public Service Commission's docket and read what others have said. And we had a public hearing in, I think it was on January 9th. Does that sound right? December 9th, yeah, December 9th. My months are running together. In Salt Lake City, we had packed room, and we heard from quite a few people who made their wishes known. We're sensitive to the fact that people have strong feelings about this on both sides of the issue, and you should know that the Public Service Commission is a judicial body. We're like a court, and so I'm going to just ask you to maintain the decorum that would be expected of you if you were in a courtroom. We ask you not to applaud or to have demonstrations. The first hearing, we had a bunch of people show up with signs, and we actually asked them to hold up their signs, took pictures of every sign, digital pictures, and put them in the record. So some of them went to a lot of work to create those signs. So we wanted to give them the respect of making sure that they were recognized with that. And we asked them to put their signs away, and they were all very respectful throughout the hearing. But we heard from anybody who wanted to participate in that hearing, we heard from. And we're going to do the same today. Since we don't have a big crowd. We're, I'll tell you, being many times in my life sitting where you are, you used to really bug me when I'd go to a city council meeting or legislative hearing and somebody would say, you've got 2 minutes or a minute and a half. I can't even clear my throat in a minute and a half, you know, so that would always bug me. So I want you to be able to say what's on your mind, but try to keep it under 5 minutes if you possibly can. And I'm not going to cut you off mid-sentence, okay? I'm going to want, you know, you took the time and to come here tonight. We want to show the respect for you to let you say what you want to say. And like I said, it's being recorded and it will be transcribed and it'll be in our record. And so just so you know, the requirement by law is that we will issue an order. We have a 240-day period to do that, and so we'll be issuing an order by April 25th of this year on the, you know, there's so many issues in the case, and we are charged by statute. That's our job to resolve those. So appreciate very much. We've got representatives of Rocky Mountain Power here tonight. We also have Brenda Salter is here from the Division of Public Utilities, and is there somebody else who came with you? Okay, and then we've got 3 folks who are here from the Office of Consumer Services. We've got Bella Vostog, and we've got just a second. I want to make sure I don't get the first name, the last name reversed, so give me just a second. So we've got Jacob Zachary. He sometimes would be called Zachary Jacob, so I want to make sure I got it right. And we also have Alex Ware who's here. So those 3 folks are here in the back. And if you haven't signed up and you want to speak, see one of them. Okay, they're going to keep the list, and we'll announce that again as the hearing goes on. So I think that's about all we need to say by way of introduction. So if when you come up, if you have them bring me up the list. If we got take the list of those who've signed up so far, we'll take you in order. And if you'll come up and use this podium, appreciate it, because that'll help us so we can record it. And then state your name, and if there's any questions, some of these will be pretty easy to, well, but if you think there's a question, you can spell it. And if you're here representing an organization, rather than just yourself, please tell us, who you're representing. And so one final thing, just on as far as notice. So I'm pretty new to the Public Service Commission, but I used to represent a lot of folks in rural Utah. For part of my career, I represented Rural Telephone Association and rural telecoms. And so the commission's always held the hearing in the Wasatch Front, and I just thought, we needed to hear what folks from rural Utah had to say. Now, if we had time, we could hold more of these hearings throughout rural Utah, but this is, about the best we can do given the constraints we're under from a time period. I think it's important that we consider the viewpoints of people from the Wasatch Front, but there are a lot of people who are not on the Wasatch Front, and we need to give them the opportunity to be heard too. So that's why we're down here. And so we've notified the city officials in Cedar City and Richfield and the Chambers of Commerce and put it in the newspapers. But looking at the list here, I'll bet you some of you got notice through the Farm Bureau, because we notified the Farm Bureau in both Richfield and in Cedar City. And we had one of your representatives make some comments at our previous meeting, which is what actually gave me the idea we better come down and hear from you folks down here, okay? So, all right, so let's begin. First one is Stuart Bowler.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate this opportunity, and thank you for coming to Cedar City. My name is Stuart Bowler. I live in Vail, Utah, I'm currently the Vice President for the Utah Association of Conservation Districts. And so while I'm here representing them and our supervisors and our group of folks around the state, and we share pretty much the same people as Farm Bureau. It's similar memberships, similar, and a lot of leaderships in both. But I'm also a Rocky Mountain customer in Vail. And so I certainly don't want to underestimate the impact it's going to have on a rate increase on the residential customers. It's going to have an impact, and it's going to be tough on them. I have sat on that side of the table myself, proposing a large increase to residents, and certainly got an earful and learned of that impact. And so I certainly want to acknowledge those folks as well in this. But my role today is really to talk about the producers, the agricultural producers in this state, and the good work that they're currently doing with efficiency and conservation, with saving power, with all the putting food on our table. They're doing a fantastic job, and they're making great efforts in everything they do. And dang, some years it's pretty much break even, and a lot of years it's below break even. And this rate increase is significant, and it's going to make an impact on what can be done and how it's going to be done. Going forward, there's going to be some tough choices to be made by these good folks who are working hard and doing the right thing for our environment, for our conservation, and our communities. I have a great concern that an increase of this amount, like I said, they're going to make tough choices, whether that's to take land out of acreage, not put it into conservation projects, what to do in their own families. This is an impact that I think is going to be hard. You can't really put a pencil to it. I actually got an accounting degree from here at SUSC at that time, and I couldn't stand it because I didn't like just putting the pencil to the paper all the time, because there was always a bigger picture. And I think this is very much one of those situations where there's a bigger picture. I know maybe this needs to be done, that needs to be done, but the work that needs to be done to continue to support agriculture, the producers who are doing the good work in this country, in this state, this area, I think that certainly needs to be acknowledged and appreciated, and a rate increase of this size is just not the way to go about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowler. I appreciate your comments. They were very thoughtful. Next we have Scott Stubbs. Welcome, Mr. Stubbs.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. My name's Scott Stubbs. I'm a rancher and a Rocky Mountain Power user, but today I represent the Iron County Farm Bureau, and that means I represent every farmer in Iron County. We are at a tough time in agriculture. We keep being asked to tighten our belts, and I think we've run out of holes. This increase will put a hardship on our producers that are doing the very best they can, being as efficient as they can, trying to produce the food to keep our country secure. I'm very concerned we can't pass along our difficulty times, our low commodity prices and whatnot, and so I would ask you to be mindful of that with this increase. I think it's a pretty big increase, and we do appreciate Rocky Mountain Power and the service they provide for us, but at this time I'm hoping we can do a little less. less. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stubbs. I appreciate that. Could you give me some idea approximately how many members would be represented by the Iron County Farm Bureau?
I think we have 600 members.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. Next we have. I'm having a little difficult time. Is it David? Is it Burton? Mr. Burton. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to be here today, and Rocky Mountain Power. Again, my name is David Burton. I'm a producer and a farmer in the Pearl Valley here in Iron County. Yeah, sorry about the penmanship there. It's half cursive and all capital in print. That's how we do things.
Well, you should be impressed I was able to decipher it.
There you go. There you go. Just want to say thank you to Rocky Mountain Power. It is a great product. As a producer and a farmer, this past, we know the growing season went to like a few $1,000 bill, went double and triple, and I understand that. We punched a new well. I appreciate the product and the equipment. So we were innovative and put VFDs in. A lot of farmers, a lot of producers are doing the same thing to be innovative, right? To say this. Utah is an agriculture promoted growth where we're trying to sustain the commodity at hand to put that food on the table. I have to second what Scott Stubbs said, tighten our belts. We're doing the very best we can. We don't set the prices for as producers, for the lamb industry, the beef industry. As we're growing the hay, the corn, we're trying to be innovative and change our crops. We have power and we have water. Water is a huge situation that we're dealing with here in Utah. We're trying to be very conservative about that. We're rotating crops. I just stand before you today. If there's anything else innovative that we can do, like I said, we've put our money where our mouth is, as far as purchasing VFDs and stuff. The trouble that we're having is, especially farmers on the end of the line, they're getting that, just like water hammering, they're getting that surge. And when we're taking out these pumps, economically, we're talking not just thousands of dollars, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars to replace that well, that motor. And so that's something that we've noticed in Iron County, in that Pearl Valley. We've had a lot of power bumps, and it's put a lot of hurt on our equipment, and we just want to address that too. What maybe things that can be done to help that, and I understand maybe that's where the prices come from, but please consider the producers, the farmers. It's, again, we don't set the produce market, and it is where it is, and it's all very low. We just can't say, well, this market, boy, it's high this year. It's not all looking great at this time, and we, like I said, at the end of the year, our budget is what it is. And in closing, I just want to say, for generations, we've been great stewards and a good, what would you say, advocate for Rocky Mountain Power. Some of that comes in purchases your product. This is the point. It could make or break guys to go out of business. And if you start losing even these small producers and farmers, it's going to hurt you just as well as the people that are trying to put food on the table. But anyways, I do appreciate your time, and please, if there is anything else innovative that we can do and come together that could help the situation, we're all open-minded. Again, we're public stewards, again, and want to help any way we can. We understand the fire prevention and so forth, but anyways, I do appreciate the time and you coming this evening and listening to the concerns that we have. Yes, sir.
Well, I was just gonna say thank you, Mr. Burke, for your comments, and then just suggest, you know, there are folks from Rocky Mountain Power here, and, you know, a dialogue between you and them as far as, a discussion of perhaps ways you could be more innovative in saving power would be a fruitful discussion, I think. So, did you have a comment, Commissioner Harvey? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question was related to the power quality issue you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
So is this a widespread, or is it, have you worked with Rocky Mountain Power reporting it, and is there monitoring going on?
Sure, you betcha. I can't speak for the producers. We had Mr. Lobb here and Mr. Roberts. There's some guys at the other end of the line that it really does. It puts a hurt on our equipment, and it is being monitoring. They're doing things, but out of their own pocket, they're paying a lot for some equipment to help those type of things. But as far as the quality of the product, just the biggest concerns that we have is, I understand California and their growth, and they have high surge peaks, maybe in July or whatever the case may be. I know Rocky Mountain Power, there's in those peak hours you can opt to put in that. The concern for the producers is if they just plant that alfalfa field, they gotta put the water on it. Even sometimes they can't shut that off in those peak times. And there is reservations for that. That does address that maybe they can't opt at that time to take that incentive. But I think it's not that we're asking for any free commodity. We pay our dues, but as Mr. Stubbs said, it is the price. We got to meet in the middle somewhere, and it is really hurting the producers at this time and the farmers.
So just to follow up then, are you actually having problems with the voltage or the frequencies or?
So the power outages, the problem that we're having is a lot of the outages, and when it stops them pumps,
Right.
and if you don't manually have it and you have it on auto, it can burn these pumps out if it just goes and tries to fire up. They drop bowls in wells, if anybody knows anything about these wells. If it doesn't have a ratchet on its head or to slow that turbine down, you can do a lot of damage and lose wells. And so the problem is yes, protecting that equipment, that huge investment that these farmers have there, it is the power outages that has been causing a lot of the problem this past season. So.
And then one final question for you.
Yes, sir.
In terms of these variable frequency drives, the VFDs.
Yes, sir.
Have any of those, do you know if they've qualified for incentive payments from the company?
You betcha.
Okay,
You betcha. And I'm actually one of them. And
Okay,
so that WAP program, so we have done our research. We're not ignorant. We've been working hand in hand with that. That is a good incentive. I think it could be a little bit more. We're talking a lot of money for some of these VFDs, but boy, they're worth their weight in gold. You can regulate your water usage and not having that hard hit. They call it a soft startup, more or less, on your wells. So you don't have that initial hit on your wells, which that influx and that can cause power bumps. And so, but not everybody can afford that. I'm here to say that not everybody can afford a VFD at this time either. But I think there's some programs out there that can help them, but I'm not saying that's the answer to everything either. But the flat out rate itself, it's a big concern for everybody. We just want to address that. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for your
Mr.
time.
Burke. Okay, we have others that have signed the list. I'm gonna trade me lists, and I'll give you this one back, and we'll see who else is here to speak. That was everybody that was on this particular list. Thank you. All right, we have Charles Peterson who's here to speak. Mr. Peterson, would you come up and address us? Sure, you can give it to us, we'll make sure it gets in the Public Service Commission record, it'll be on the docketed on our webpage.
Says Rocky Mountain Power's,
You've got some Rocky Mountain Power people, why don't you just, if you can hand to Brenda Salter here, she can make sure that those get distributed, and then if you've got one for the two of us, we'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Peterson, thank you for being here with us. We understand you used to work for the state.
Yes, I did.
Okay, we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Okay, well, my name is Charles Peterson, and good afternoon, Commissioners. I thank you for coming down to Cedar City. And since several people here already know who I am, but there are several who don't, I will briefly introduce myself. I worked for 15 years for the Division of Public Utilities until my retirement at the end of 2019. While I was at the division, I testified as the division's cost of capital witness in several Rocky Mountain Power rate cases, and in at least one rate case involving the company formerly known as Questar Gas. Given this background, I will make some observations regarding the cost of capital testimony that the Commission has received. Specifically, I want to address the common equity capital structure and return on equity, or ROE for short. Regarding the capital structure, and with apologies to my former colleague Casey Coleman, there seems to be sufficient reason to adopt a hypothetical capital structure in order to help support the company's bond rating. A range of 45 to 50% for common equity appears to me to be appropriate. Hence, Professor Woolridge's recommendation of 47.5% is a reasonable compromise. Regarding ROE, I first want to refer to the quotes by Von Bright from his classic texts, and that's the third page of my handout. In particular, I would like to read from the second quote. Von Bright says, "Regulation is simply powerless to assure the purchasers of public utility equities, or common stock, that future corporate earnings will suffice to maintain market prices on par with book values or any other value or figure. Lacking this power," and I've put in italics, "regulation wisely concedes to the public utilities industries opportunities for corporate earnings liberal enough to bring substantial market premiums to the stocks of well-managed companies that actually succeed in realizing these earnings fairly continuously. While the allowance of a rate of return during periods of prosperity liberal enough to let utility equities command substantial premiums over their book value seems to me to be called for in the interest of long-run corporate ability to meet capital requirements. Excuse me. The question what constitutes proper degree of liberality has not yet received a convincing answer, and I don't know that it has since then. I wanted to point this out because one of the issues that was argued between Professor Woolridge and Miss, and I'm hoping I pronounced her name correctly, Miss Bulkley, about the meaning or significance of the fact that the publicly traded utility holding companies trade at market-to-book ratios significantly above 1. What the meaning of that is, Woolridge argues, and I think he's largely correct, that this is an indication that these utility holding companies are earning ROEs, returns on equity, in excess of their cost of equity, at least as Wall Street views it. Ms. Bulkley critiques this by offering several explanations, alternative explanations, and while they may have some influence in the matter, I think by and large the effect of earning premiums to the cost of capital, again, as Wall Street views cost of capital or cost of equity, is the correct view. And I think there are reasons to believe that it is appropriate for commissions to continue the practice observed long ago by Bonbright of providing the opportunity to earn not only a rate of return to the degree that Wall Street expects the companies to minimally return, but also gives them the opportunity to exceed that by small amounts. With regard to the actual ROE recommendations, the company says it will settle for its current authorized ROE of 9.65%, but it hired an outside consultant, Ms. Bulkley, who argues that the correct ROE should be 10.25% to 11.25%. I believe Ms. Bulkley's estimates are quite aggressive due to high growth rates that she used for her DCF models and in aggressive market risk premia used in her risk premium models such as CAPM. On the flip side, I think that estimates in the 8 to 9% range, while they may be similar to cost of equity from the perspective of Wall Street, I don't think they're very helpful to a regulatory determination. For whatever it's worth, over the years of my experience, I developed a rough rule of thumb as a test of reasonableness for utilities ROE estimates. If you take the current market yield as opposed to the embedded cost of debt, the current market, the yield demanded in the market currently, you get, and add 3% to that, you get a fairly good ballpark estimate of what its current ROE should be under normal circumstances. This rule of thumb is simply a type of equity risk premium model. You could equate it to a CAPM with a beta of 1, for example. Based upon somewhat limited information that's available to me, I believe the current market yield of Pacific Corp's long-term debt would be no more than from about 6 to maybe 6.3%. In summary, I believe that a capital structure with a common equity component of 47.5% is reasonable. I believe that the Commission's decision range for ROE is between 9.0 and 9.65%, with a median range of 9.3 to 9.4%. The Commission could support the company's request of 9.65 if it were to give much more weight than I would give to the recommendations of Ms. Bulkley. Or the Commission could support a value nearer to 9% if it were to give much more weight than I would recommend to say Mr. Garrett's 8.8% recommendation or individual model estimates of other witnesses that are below 9.0. This concludes my prepared remarks, and I'm available to answer questions, as they say.
Mr. Peterson, I don't think we have any questions, but I do want to say this. We very much appreciate your thoughtful presentation and your preparation of this document. And I think that it's particularly helpful that you have provided this summary and your analysis. And so thank you very much for being here and for your service in the past to the state of Utah and to the Department of Public Utilities, Division of Public Utilities.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Peterson. Okay, next we have Travis Laub, is that correct? L-A-U-B? Okay, Mr. Laub, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Travis Laub. I'm a local farmer here. I live out in the Parowan Valley. I'm also a member of Farm Bureau, which is how I was able to hear about this meeting today. I did not hear about it in any other outlets. My reason for being in front of you today is to express my concern about an increase in cost of power. Quantity or the product that I produce is alfalfa, and to produce that, like some of my friends that have spoke before, it requires water. I have taken steps to put the VFD setups on many of my pumps to help with that, but a little bit different from them, we, to expand our market, have a cubing operation where we take the alfalfa, we pelletize it into small cubes, and thus allows us to ship overseas. With this cubing operation, we require a lot of power. We are customers of Rocky Mountain Power. Challenges come when our power is shut off because of power outages, or Rocky Mountain has decided that conditions are unsuitable. They'll shut off our power. My cubing system takes a great deal of time and cleanup to get it started again after a sudden shut off in power. It takes considerable amount of time and energy to do so, and the startup is very difficult to accomplish. In my job, what I'm doing, I see a lot of, if I pay for something, I'm receiving something. I pay for fertilizer, I spread it on my fields, I receive something from it. I pay for fuel, it's able to run my equipment so I can make my harvest. I can get my hay in, I'm able to sell it and receive something. Last year we had an increase in power prices already. My power rates went up, but my quality of power decreased. I was dealing with even more power outages, and instead of it being a power bump where I could turn things back on more quickly, power was out for much longer because I know that they had to send, Rocky Mountain had to send their guys out to inspect all the power lines for miles and miles to make sure that everything was clear before they would allow them to turn the power back on. Meanwhile, my equipment's getting cold, making startup even more difficult.
Can I ask you a question? Do you know whether that was a public safety power shutoff? Was it shut off because of a potential wildfire?
It was shut off because of high heat or high winds, so I assume it's possible that it was because of a chance of
Fire.
wildfire, but
And how long was your power off on that occasion?
it takes several hours, a minimum of 3 hours, and by that time my equipment has cooled down enough that startup is not easy. I have to unplug it, clean it out to get it even remotely able to start up again. From this increase in prices, again I say, we did not see an improvement at all in the equipment that's bringing power to my farm. We're still, not only are they just shutting it off for these types of circumstances, but power outages happen multiple times a day sometimes. Very, very frequent, and it can be a calm day, temperatures are down, humidity's up a little bit, not bad. So why is my power going out multiple times a day? I'm not getting anything for my additional cost that I'm paying already. So with this, my question to Rocky Mountain is, what am I getting? What am I paying for? What am I going to receive from my additional payment to compensate for the challenges and the struggles that I face with my power going out constantly? Thank you.
Well, I'm just curious about the production process itself a little bit. On the cubing machine, what percentage of the time is that running? I'm assuming it's tied to when the alfalfa is harvested and you have the cutting of that, and you then process it and then you wait. But for the time that you're actually using it, is it an around the clock? How long does it go?
Sometimes we're running around the clock, but for the most part, we're running from about 7 to 8 a.m. to about 1 to 2 a.m. And that's for about 2 weeks, with the exception of Sundays.
So it'd be 2 weeks after every cutting of the alfalfa throughout the
Correct,
season?
yes.
Okay. And then I'm assuming, since you've got the time at night, that if there's a controlled shutdown or a planned shutdown, that you have ways of making it easier to start back
Absolutely.
up the next morning.
After a controlled shutdown, I can have the whole system back up and running in 30 minutes.
And if it's a power outage out of the blue,
It takes a minimum of 2 to 3 hours after the power is restored
after it's restored.
to get it back up and running.
So the 3-hour outage would mean at least a 5, maybe a 6-hour downtime.
Yes.
And then you said there were power outages frequently. I mean, during that 2 weeks, just thinking back to recent 2 weeks, how many are you talking?
It happens at least twice during that 2 weeks to sometimes 5 or 6 times during that 2 weeks, which can extend my harvesting to another couple of days even. So, yes.
Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lobb. Appreciate you taking the time to come share your concerns with us. Do we have anybody else who's signed a list yet? Okay, if there is anybody here who's present and wants to speak right now, we've got some folks back here from the Office of Consumer Services. You can sign their list, and then you can just come on up and tell us your name. Okay, so we're going to have a recess here, and we by our notice said we'd be here till 6 o'clock. We may see no one else, or we could have a mad rush after people get off work. So we're gonna wait and see. So, but and you're welcome to stick around if you'd like, or you're welcome to go, whatever you'd like to do. But I want to just thank you for taking the time and giving us this input. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. gonna mad rush through that door, and the next couple of seconds, we're going to adjourn. I wanna, first of all, thank the folks from Southern Utah University. I've had some help here from one of the students in computer science who's made sure that we handled this technology appropriately, so thank you for being here and spending the last couple hours with us. And want to thank the representatives of the Office of Consumer Services and the Division of Public Utilities have been here, and also the folks from Rocky Mountain Power have been here, and particularly want to thank Melissa and Fred Nass, who's not with us today, but handled a lot of the logistical arrangements for this hearing. We'll in future proceedings, I think we're going to establish the precedent that we are going to conduct at least a hearing in rural Utah when we have a matter that we think is of significant interest to all of the citizens, or a great percentage of the citizens of the state of Utah. But is there anyone else present who would like to speak? I'm saying that for the record because I can see there's not. But okay, all right. We'll adjourn this this public hearing in Cedar City, Utah, and thank you for your participation.
You too. Be careful out there.
Thank you.